Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shuklambaradaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. The Param Vedanta team welcomes you to the third session of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. Last week we saw his Updesha head on. Last week we saw how Krishna started his Updesha head on. He explains, you are not the mind nor the body, but the Atma. And then he throws light on the nature of Atma. The recap of last week's verses will be done by Arunaji. But if you cannot understand this Atma or believe or accept Atma, it is not surprising. This topic is subtle and it requires a lot of preparation to understand. Atma is a wonder and Atma Jnanam is a bigger wonder. It is not perceivable by the five senses. It is beyond the mind and beyond all concepts. Trying to objectify the self is the biggest reason to not be able to understand the self. But then, complete freedom from sorrow will come only from self-realization. Be patient, don't waver, and this will come to you eventually. Krishna guarantees that. Let's listen to the verses 17 to 22 today from chapter 2. Srimati Panaga will be chanting the verses for us towards the end of the class. But first, the recap of last week's verses. Over to you, Aruna ma'am.
Hari Om, thank you. At the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, we see a sorrowful Arjuna in total despair about the right course of action he should take. So Bhagavan Krishna allows him to vent his sorrow and rejection. And when Arjuna surrenders to the Lord at his feet, Bhagavan Krishna becomes the Guru and starts his teachings to the entire world, the beautiful Bhagavad Gita. Next slide, please. This verse number 11 is a seed verse. The main teaching of the Gita Shastra starts here. Right at this point is the start of the Sankhya Yoga. And the entire teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is sort of encoded in these two lines. Ashocyanan vashochastvam pragyavadanscha bhashase gatasuna gatasuncha nanu shochanti panditaha. The sum and substance of this verse is self-ignorance is the cause of all human problems, and self-knowledge is the only way out of misery. The essence of Sankhya Yoga is the discrimination between Atman and ego, and to have equanimity of the mind rooted in this connection. The second line of this verse says, Panditaha na anushocyanti. A wise person or a pandit does not grieve in life. Wise with respect to what? Atma Jnanam. And Atma Jnani doesn't grieve for the living, the dead, the past, or the future. So, Arjuna, you speak like a wise person, and yet you know that Duryodhana, etc., are not worthy of your grief, being adharmic. Therefore, what you now require is Jnanam. Next slide, please. After this cryptic loaded verse, Bhagavan Sri Krishna elaborates and brings the concept of Atma Vidya down to further levels of understanding. At this point, Bhagavan's aim is to get Arjuna to fight. He uses the philosophical approach, the ethical angle, and the worldly angle to make his point. But the Bhagavad Gita deals mostly with the philosophical angle because the ethical and worldly angles Arjuna is familiar with. Na tvevaham jatunasham na tvam meme janadhipaha. Bhagwan expounds Atma Vidya, that the Atma consciousness is eternal. It has no beginning and no end. There was never a time when it didn't exist, nor will it ever cease to exist in the future. It is this principle which pervades everything in the universe. The Atma or consciousness principle does not do any action since it is all pervading. And it is unchanging, free from all modifications, because the Atma is not bound by the limitations of the body. That eternal, unchanging consciousness is our true nature or self, O Arjuna. Therefore, If we shift our vision or focus from the body, that is Anatma, to consciousness or Atma, it is a shift from mortality to immortality. It is important to disidentify with the body and identify with the immortal I or the Atma. Next slide, please. In this manner, Bhagwan comes to verse 13. Bhagwan Krishna defines the concept of the eternal Atma. He says that both birth and death happen only to the body, even as a person's body goes through childhood, youth, middle age, and old age. That is dehesmin yatha dehe, kaumaram yauvanam jara. Going through these 4 stages of life, a person's identity doesn't change, he remains the same. Similarly, birth and death happen only to the body, and even if it means attaining another body, it is temporary, but the Atma or consciousness remains permanently. So a wise person does not grieve over this body. Dhira namukhyati, O Arjuna. Next slide, please. Bhagwan further explains this concept. O Arjuna, as you understand the nature of Atma, understand the nature of Anatma also. The body is Anatma. The sense organs that cause you to experience heat, cold, pleasure, and pain, they are all impermanent, temporary. They come and go. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu. The life is full of opposing experiences, but they are all temporary. Therefore, that person who is not disturbed by these opposing experiences, saha purusham yamna vyathayanti, and who does not get disturbed, that person is equanimous and therefore dhira, which means wise. The faculty of mental endurance called titiksha is of utmost importance, not to react to anything or to any situation, being calm, neither irritated nor overly excited, the state of being a sthita prajna. Such a person who has samadukha sukham, only such a person is fit for Brahma Vidya. Next, please. The 16th verse is very technical, where Bhagwan distinguishes between Atma as Satya or real and the body-mind complex as Mithya or unreal. The Atma has intrinsic existence, whereas the body-mind complex borrows existence from the Atma. The Anatma body-mind is therefore temporary, but the Atma is permanent. So this is known to a jnani or to a person of discrimination. And this is what we should all strive for. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you, Aruna, for a nice recap of the 6 verses of the last class. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. As we begin the study of the Gita once again, let us be very clear what is our objective. Gita is scripture, and we listen to a scripture with Shraddha. We must identify here with the disciple Arjuna, and whenever Shri Krishna refers to Arjuna by any one of his names, we should be able to be alert that Lord Krishna is referring to us as he is addressing Arjuna. Our Shastras are to be taken as a mirror. We are not here for a scholarship of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. Each time we study each verse of the Bhagavad Gita, especially the 6 verses that we are studying today, it should be like a mirror to help us to discover our true nature. The real objective will be fulfilled if I discover who I really am. And in the course, there is one exercise our teachers recommend that we do all the time. And technically, this is called a prakriya, a methodology which is called Drik Drishya Viveka. Whatever I see and experience with my sense organs is an object of my experience or drishyam. I, the one who's seeing them, is the real me or Drik. And in this process, I negate everything around as not me, as drishyam, as an object of my experience. Finally, I come to my body and I need to use the same law that this body that I experience is an object of my experience, and therefore it is anatma or not me. I come in touch with my mind, which is trying to explain this. I use the same law that this mind of mine is also anatma. It finally leads me to that sense of awareness which is illumining my mind. And this is the process that I need to be aware as I go through each verse of the Gita. The opening verse today will be the 17th verse explained to us by Colonel Vijayan. Over to you, sir.
Hari Om Gurubhyo Namah. The theme of the ongoing shlokas has been to understand the nature of the eternal essence known as Atma. Sri Krishna starts with the Atma Anatma Viveka and introduces the Atma Swarupam in verse 12. He says Atma is Nitya, it is eternal, it is not bound by time. The second lesson he conveys is that the Atma is Satya. Everything depends on Atma for its existence. Atma alone is the real existence. In verse 17, Krishna explains two essences of the Atma. One, the Atma is indestructible or imperishable, reinforcing the fact that Atma is Nitya. Two, Atma is all-pervading. The verse reads, Avinashi tu tatvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Next slide, sir. Avinashi tu tatvidhi. Know that surely is free from spatial, temporal, or objective limitations. The word tat means that and is used to identify an entity which is away, which cannot be perceived by our senses, something that is paroksha, adrishya, agraham, and that something, the Atma, the self-effulgence having the nature of reality, the Brahman. Yena sarvam idam tatam, which pervades all this. The word sarvam idam signifies the entire visible world and is pervaded by the Atma, the reality. Just like all the pots come from mud, exist in mud, and when they are destroyed, all the forms and names merge back in mud. So the mud is the reality holding the pots together. Similarly, the world of finite objects and changes is enveloped by the real, the changeless Brahman, the Atma. As the gold pervades all the ornament and water pervades the ocean and waves, the Atma, the pure being, pervade our experiencing world. It is that one Atma which pervades all. Atma is Ekaha and Anatma are many. Tatam means Vyaptam. As the Atma is all pervading, the Atma is formless and shapeless, like Akasha and space. Akashvat Nirakaraha. Na kaschit kartum arhati. Nothing whatsoever is able to bring about. Vinasham abhyayasyas. Destruction of this immutable. The Atma indulges in all vyavhara only as long as the body is available. And once the body perishes, the Atma continues but would not be available for any transaction. Next slide, sir. Interestingly, this phrase, Yena sarvam idam tatam, finds mention in two more places in the Bhagavad Gita. In verse 22 of chapter 8, Yasyanti stani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. In this verse, Sri Krishna says, O Arjuna, indeed the Supreme Lord can be attained by undivided devotion. All beings are in him and all this is pervaded by him. The verse expresses Bhakti Yoga. Again, verse 46 of chapter 18, Yatha pravartir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam, from whom all beings have emanated and by whom all this universe is pervaded. By worshipping him through dedicated performance of one's duties, a man attains to spiritual competency. Spells out Karma Yoga. In another verse, verse 4 of chapter 9, the phrase is used with a little modification. Maya tatam idam sarvam. All the world is pervaded by me, the unmanifested being. All objects subsist in me, but not I in them, explains Jnana Yoga. To conclude, the idea here is that while the Atma is imperishable, the body is perishable and is perishing every day. Nobody can check the process of such destruction. Whether Arjuna wages the war or withdraws from it, the imperishable, the immutable cannot be destroyed, and the perishable cannot be saved from destruction. Hari Om.
Thank you, sir, for explanation of this 17th verse, where the key word is Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam, where Atma is seen as all-pervading. And what is all-pervading? That which exists is all-pervading, and therefore that which exists can never become non-existent. Remember in earlier verse, Nasato vidyate bhava, na bhava vidyate sataha. So that which is existent can never become non-existent. Wherever the word existence comes, there is a lot of Bhashyam by Adi Shankara, and Swamiji also gives a lot of explanation about what is this existence. You gave us a lot of Gita quotation. There is another beautiful verse which I particularly love, the 7th verse of the 7th chapter, which again talks about Atma as all-pervading. Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva, which we can also meditate as I pervade in and through everything in an invisible manner, just like the thread pervades through a mala or a garland. Let me share a story related to this as existence, which comes from the Old Testament, the book called the Exodus. And the Old Testament is common even for the Jews, and the Jewish book is called Torah. And this is a story of when Moses suddenly sees a bush on fire. And as he gets closer, he sees although the bush is burning, the leaves are still vibrant and green. And as he proceeds closer, he hears a voice which says, "Can you please take off your footwear because you are on holy land?" And the voice introduces him as God, and Moses has a discussion with God. And then when Moses is leaving with the instructions from God, he asks, "But who are you? What is your name?" And God in the scripture says, "Go tell your people, I am that I am." In our text, we refer to Paramatma as Tat, that. And I am. What is I am? Who can say I? Only a conscious being can say I. And whenever you say I, it refers to the consciousness in me. I know I am. I know I am existent. I don't need anybody to prove my existence. And therefore, the key in understanding ourselves is I am. I am consciousness. I am existence. And this is the essence of all Vedanta. We go, there is a nice meditation process available on YouTube given to us by Wayne Dyer, where he allows us to meditate on this concept, I am that I am. I would refer you to check on that. Our next verse is verse 18, and Dr. Sundar will explain. Over to you, Dr. Sundar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Antavanta ime deha nityasyukta sharirinaha anashina prameyasya tasmadhyujyasva bharata. Let's see the Anvaya. There are two sentences here. Ime deha, these bodies, nityasya anashinaha aprameyasya sharirinaha, of the timeless, indestructible, unobjectifiable, embodied one, uktaha antavantaha, are said to be subject to death. The second sentence is tasmad, therefore, yudhyasva bharata, fight, O Arjuna. And the meaning of this verse is, these bodies of the timeless, indestructible, unobjectifiable, embodied one are subject to death. Therefore, fight, O Bharata. As we see in the next slide, we are now in that portion of the second chapter which deals with Atma, Anatma, Viveka, Jnana Yoga. And because of this, this chapter gets the name Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya is the truth that is revealed in the Upanishads, which is Atma. In this section, Lord Krishna is detailing 7 features of Atma. So far, we have covered Nitya, Satya, Sarvagata. This verse also covers the Nitya aspect of Atma. In addition, the focus in this verse is about Atma being Aprameya. Since the focus is on this word Aprameya, in the following slides, let us see little more details about Atma as Aprameya. Aprameya means that Atma is not objectifiable. It cannot be known as an object. Sometimes it is, the word used also is unknowable. So one may question, if it is unknowable, does it really exist at all? For this, the Shastram introduces us to say that everything in this creation is one of the two, Atma and Anatma. In the case of Anatma, the Shastram says that there is a 4-component process in the method of knowing. The Pramata or the knower uses an instrument or pramanam and he obtains prama or knowledge about a knowable object, the prameyam. The Shastra now says that Atma distinguishes itself from everything Anatma. It does not require this 4-component method of knowing. While Anatma is pramana siddhaha, Atma is swata siddhaha. It is self-revealing or it is self-evident. So you cannot say that Atma, although you call it as unknowable, you cannot question its existence. In fact, every singular experience that we go through the day happens only because of the presence of Atma, as is said in the Kenopanishad verse Pratibodha Viditam Matam. A common example given is, in every photograph, one can never question the presence of the camera, because the very presence of the photograph is an evidence that there has been a camera. So Atma is ever the experience, never the experienced. A question may arise, if it is unknowable in this manner, then what is the role of Shastram? So the teacher says, Swamiji says that although Shastram cannot reveal Atma as an object, it can remove false superimpositions, adhyasa, and when the veil is removed, the Atma shines forth self-evidently. In the next slide, let us also explore another aspect of Aprameya. We all know that Atma and Anatma are inseparably intimate. 2 questions can thus arise. Can Anatma ever become like Atma due to the intimacy? Or can Anatma affect the intimate Atma? In Shastram, this is referred to as transference of attributes between the two due to intimacy. Can such a thing be possible? Just like the fragrance is transmitted to something which is close to it. So here we go back to the study of Atma Satyam few verses ago, where we see, as in the example of clay and pot, wherever there is a karya karana sambandha, wherever there is a cause-effect relationship, we come to see that the cause alone is substantial, intrinsic, permanent, original, or of the nature of Satyam, and the effect is only Nama Rupa. It is incidental, it is temporary, borrowed, of the nature of Mithya. In other words, the effect is as good as not there. So when the effect or the Anatma is as good as not there, there is never a question of transference of attributes from Atma to Anatma, or there is never a question of Anatma affecting the Atma in whatsoever manner. And this feature is called as Asangatvam. This shows that Atma as Aprameya is a layer of reality which is beyond Anatma, and therefore it is never affected by Anatma. Now let us see 3 more features in the subsequent verses. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar, for giving an explanation, excellent explanation of this verse. There is nothing really that I can add. Only I can emphasize that this verse gives a lot of importance, or we can use this verse to understand what is this aprameya. And wherever you get some of these terms, both Swamiji and Adi Shankara in his Bhashyam elaborates a lot on this. I would like you to focus on the word Bharata. Whenever the word Bharata is referred to, we have to suddenly wake up, because that is our name also from now. All the time, all the names are, that Lord Krishna refers to for Arjuna is our name. And these have a great meaning. The word Ba, as I've said earlier, refers to self-knowledge, and Ratha means one who revels in this self-knowledge. Dr. Sundar has explained sufficiently about aprameya, but I would like you to emphasize these things. These four terms, what is this pramata, what is pramana, prama, and prameya should be very clear. Only then you will be able to appreciate what is this aprameya. Once I am awake and my mind is working behind, my mind, I want to know all the objects around me. That knower in me is called the pramata. To know anything, I have to use an instrument. I need to use my sense organs and mind. My sense organs and mind now become the instrument of knowledge, which is called the pramana. Once I get to know something, that knowledge that this is the book, this is the table, this is the bulb, that knowledge that I get is called prama. That object that I know, the bulb, the table, is called prameya. There is one person in this whole scheme, which has not been mentioned, who can never be objectified. That is the subject. That real subject which illumines the pramata, that consciousness, is referred to as aprameya. This aprameya comes in the Upanishads as the form of triputi. The three things. In every interaction, they will be the pramata, pramanam, prameya. The Upanishads talk of trishu damasu yad bhogyam bhokta yad bhogyasya yad bhavet tebhyo vilakshana sakshichin matroham sadashiva. That aprameya is described in the next line. I am none of these three things. I am not the pramata, I am not the bhogyam, bhokta, or the process of enjoyment, but I am that aprameya, the witnessing thing that is beyond all the three. The next verse will be by Sukanya. This is verse 19. Over to you, Sukanya.
Hari Om. Arjuna expresses grief and fear over the possibility of killing his near and dear ones and his guru Dronacharya in the battlefield. He wants to run away. Being helpless, he tells Krishna, Katham Bhishmamaham Sanke Dronam cha Madhusudana Ishubhihi Pratiyotsami Pujarhavari Sudana. How can I even attempt to kill my guru who is worthy of worship? With this background, Lord Krishna convinces Arjuna to fight the battle, Dharma Yuddha. When there is conflict, decisions should be based on Dharma. Dharma is the will of the Lord. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Arjuna is helpless. He is intellectually deluded. Emotional weakness has overpowered him. We also face similar situations in life. The essence of this verse guides us to deal with tough situations. Gita Shastra is meant for removal of the root cause of samsara, grief and delusion. Shoka moha adi nivrittatham Gita Shastra. Verse goes like this. So evam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau to na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. The self does not kill nor gets killed. The one who considers the self to be a killer and the one who considers to be self to be killed, both of them are ignorant. Previous verses explained Atma Swarupa as Avikari, Avinashi, Aprameya, etc. This verse explains Atma as Akarta and Abhokta. Hanti na hanyate are the key words here, indicating Atma is neither a killer nor an object for killing. Just as heat is the intrinsic swabhava of fire, flowing from higher altitude to lower is the swabhava of water, Akarta and Abhokta is the Atma Swarupa. Hanti na hanyate referred to here is action. Atma is Akarta, does not perform any action, nor an agent of any action. or object of any action. Not knowing this, the ignorant think Atma is killed when the body is killed. This is best understood in the example of a cinema screen, wherein the players perform their given roles, but the screen is least affected by any of their actions. For transactional reasons, we do claim doership at times, but in Vedanta, the claim of doership should be avoided to be a karma yogi. Self is pratyagatma, witness sakshi, not involved in any action, but lends existence to everything. Yasya sannidhi matrena dehendriya manodhiya. By its mere presence alone, the sense organs, the mind, the intellect function, but Atma is akarta. Atma is Vishwavyapi, all-pervading, beautifully explained by Dr. Colonel Vijayan. But it is not pervaded by any. Space accommodates everything in creation, but does not participate and get affected. For example, the smoke or the dust. Water did not fill the space in the pot while making. Space was already there before making and will continue to be there even after the pot is broken. Atma is avinashi. Avinashi tu tadviddi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyasyasya na kaschit kartumarhasi. The physical body undergoes modifications. Shadvikara, jayate, asti, vardhate, viparinimate, apakshiyate, nashyati. But the Atma is changeless, which is already explained earlier. Atma Swarupa is explained by the Lord again and again because it's not perceivable and it's difficult to grasp. Only Shastra is the pramana, and this helps us to discover our true nature. We are Atma Swarupa. To claim Aham Brahmasmi, we need to practice the skill in action. Be a facilitator, allow actions to happen, remain effortless. This is the law of least effort, being akarta. Do least and accomplish more. These are the motivational quotes from our Guru, Dr. Hegde. Finally, karma of the anatma is superimposed on the atma. Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya srujati prabho. Na karma pala samyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Atma is akarta, but the Maya operates for universal ignorance. Only spiritual knowledge can unfold Maya Shakti. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sukanya, for a nice explanation of an important verse which talks about Atma as Akarta. Atma is all-pervading. Something that is all-pervading cannot move, and because it cannot move, it cannot do anything. And this is something to be understood because that is my true nature. And you will see this is the first of 2 verses in today's class which deal with Atma as Akarta. And that is why if you have to be closer to your real self, you have to realize that I have to do less and less and allow more things to happen in my life. The next verse will be by Dr. Srinivas Nuti. Over to you, Dr. Srinivas.
Yes, sir. This verse is verse number 20. Najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. This verse is very much similar to a verse from the Kathopanishad. So, Najayate mriyate va vipaschinnayam kutaschinna babhuva kaschit ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. This is a verse from Kathopanishad. So as we know that Bhagavad Gita is a summary of Upanishads. So except 2-3 words, it's almost similar to the Upanishadic verse. Another point in this verse is most of the verses in Bhagavad Gita are Anushtup Chandas. That means 8 letters in each sentence. So each sentence will have 8 letters. That is Anushtup Chandas. Whereas this is Upajati Vruttam Chandas. That means there are 4 sentences. Each sentence will have 11 letters. So these are the 2 things. And now let us see the meaning of each word and each sentence. Najayate, this is very clear. It means not born. Mriyate va means it does not die. Va means are. Okay, in this word, in this sentence, the meaning of va is are. It neither It neither takes birth nor does it die. Kadachin nayam. This is a word. This word can be split into 3 words. Kadachit plus na plus ayam. Kadachit means at any given point of time. Chit is usually used when there is uncertainty. Kadachit means at any given point of time, at any time. So there is uncertainty here. Chit and chana, these are the 2 words used when there is uncertainty is there. Ayam means this. The verbal meaning of ayam means this. Here in this shloka, it is this Atma. We have to take it as this Atma. So this is the meaning of the first sentence is na jayate mriyate va kadachit. That means at any given point of time or at any time, this neither dies, neither takes birth. So it does not die either. That is the meaning of the first line. The second line is, this is a little bit difficult to understand. Little grammar is important to understand this here. Na ayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha. Na ayam bhutva. Na ayam. Ayam means this Atma. Na bhutva means after. Bhutva is a past continuous tense. That means it's talking of the past tense. So having not existing earlier, that is the meaning. Innu munde illade iddu. In Kannada, it's easy to explain in Kannada, sir. Bhuyaha. Bhuyaha means again. Bhuyo bhuyo namamyaham, we tell. Again and again we respect. Bhuyaha means again. So having not existing earlier, again, bhavita vana. Bhavita pertains to future tense. So it does not exist in future. So having not existing earlier, again, it does not exist in future. Basically, this sentence is opposite of the previous sentence. So previous sentence, we are told that it does not take birth and so it does not die. So this is telling having not existing earlier, it does not exist in future. So that is the meaning of this word. So bhutva is a past continuous tense. This is a tva pratyayam. Whenever tva comes, that means it is a past continuous tense. Bhavita is a future tense. So we have to add na here. Bhuyaha is again. So next slide, sir. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano. Ajo is a, when we split the words, it becomes ajaha. But visarga here becomes vokaram. That is without birth. Nityaha is eternal. Shashvatoyam. Shashvataha plus ayam. Ayam means again this Atma. So it becomes Shashvataha, that is permanent. Purano, again when we split it, it becomes Puranaha. So when you are reading in flow, we should read as Purano, but when you are reading it as separately, we should read it as Puranaha. That means it is very old. Next line, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. That means na hanyate is not destroyed, hanyamane sharire. When the body is destroyed, this Atma is not destroyed. So this is a very simple words, sir, not much of complicated words here. Next slide, sir. So to understand what exactly the characteristics of Atma, here we can see that this slide contains a photograph of an atom. The central portion is the protons and neutrons, and the revolving electrons are there all around this. So in between the two, that is the central protons, neutrons, and the revolving electrons, there is an empty space. So let us imagine that empty space is the Atma. So just to understand, I am not telling that is Atma. In the beginning, it is easy for us to relate the Atma to this concept and then understand. So let us imagine that this empty space is the Atma. Now let us apply all the characteristics defined by Bhagavan in this verse. It does not take birth. The empty space does not take birth, nor does it die. If the electrons fall away and the neutrons and the protons fall away, the empty space remains as it is at any given point of time. It having not existing earlier, it is not going to exist in future. So it is as it is. It does not take birth. It is eternal. It is permanent. It is old. And it does not die when the electrons and protons die. Similarly, the same thing is explained in the previous speaker also. That is a pot space. That's a Ghatakasham. When the pot breaks down, the Ghatakasham becomes one with the pot space becomes one with the universal space. So that's how it's easier. You can understand like this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas, for a nice explanation of each verse and how to analyze and understand each verse. And this example that you gave to compare Atma as space. Every example has its limitations. The only difference being Atma is conscious and space is inert. So we can, the best comparison to Atma is space. So what you need to see this as conscious space. Having understood each word of this particular verse, now this verse needs to be remembered. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin, nayam bhutva bhavita na bhuyaha, ajaha nityaha sashvatoyam puranaha, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. When you utter each word with meaning, this becomes a nididhyasanam, this becomes a reflection not on Atma, but on my real self. We have to translate as, I have no beginning, I have no end, I have been there from the very beginning, if there is a beginning. And when the body undergoes certain modifications, whatever happens to the body or to the mind should not affect me. And that is the beauty of this particular verse. As Dr. Srinivas pointed out, so many of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita come from various Upanishads. That's why we call in the Dhyana Shloka, Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandana. Krishna has milked the Bhagavad Gita from the Upanishads, and he has a particular favorite Upanishad, the Kathopanishad. In fact, most of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita which have come from the Upanishad have come from the Kathopanishad. As pointed out by Dr. Srinivas, this verse, the 20th verse, and the earlier verse, about akarta aspect, enam veti hantaram, is also from the same Upanishad, the Kathopanishad. Verse 21 will be explained to us by Rama Gopal Krishna. Over to you, Ramaji.
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Veda vinashinam nityam yayenam ajamavyayam katham sa purushah partha kam ghatayatik hantikam. The word meaning. Partha, O Arjuna, avinashinam, antya bhava vikara rahitam, that is immortal, nityam, viparinama rahitam, changeless, ajam, janma rahitam, free from birth, avyayam, apakshaya rahitam, that is free from decay, yenam, purvena mantrena ukta lakshanam, that is this Atma whose features have been talked about, yaha veda, Vijanati, that is one who knows katham kena prakarena, how can sapurushaha adhikrutaha vidwan, a qualified wise person, kam hanti hanana kriyam karoti, how can the wise person kill anyone, kam ghatayati hantaram prayojayati, instigate a killer. Previous speakers have already explained the Atma Lakshana. Pujya Swamiji, in his elaborate commentary on this shloka, explains the significance of few words. Indirect knowledge is gained through Guru, Shastra, Upadesha, Shravanam, and other means. Shravanam is studying the scriptures, Mananam is clearing all doubts, and Nididhyasanam is deep Mananam or reflection. This indirect knowledge has to be deepened into realization till it becomes a living reality, which is first-person experience. That is, to realize that I am the Atma, which is all-pervading, and I am Atma with all the adjectives as described repeatedly by Sri Krishna. Pujya Swamiji also says, shifting of this I from Dehatma Bhava, that is matter, to consciousness is called Nididhyasanam. Just as the feeling that I am the body is natural to me now, I am the Atma also should become natural. One should live with the insight of what is understood, which leads to the awakening moment. Features of Atma will be mine, therefore I am Akarta and Abhokta. Therefore, Atma is neither the doer nor the instigator. This is the meaning of the word Veda in this verse. Then, how can Atma engage in action and reap karma phalam? The Dehatma Bhava superimposed on Atma becomes Jiva and engages in actions and its results. Both the words katham and kam are used in the meaning of negotiation and not in the interrogative sense. Context being the war field, Hanana Kriya is used as an indicator or upalakshana. Hanana Kriya Dwara Sarva Karma Pratishedaha is an indication of all actions negated. The immutability of the self is common to all kind of actions of a realized person. Shankaracharya says 21st verse is repeating the same idea that is given in the 19th verse. A singer sings elaborately ragam, tanam and pallavi of a particular raga so that the raga is established deeply and firmly in the listener's mind. Similarly, Sri Krishna repeats the Atma Lakshanam only to establish the same firmly in Arjuna's mind. 19th verse is called Pratigna Shloka or a proposition, that is Atma is actionless. 20th Shloka is called Hetu Shloka because of the reasoning, that is Atma is changeless. The 21st verse is called Nigamana Shloka or conclusion, which says therefore Atma is actionless. Also 21st Shloka is a brief Upasamhara for the proposition of the 19th Shloka. Hari Om. Thank you, sir. Shri Guru Bhyo Namah.
Thank you, Ramaji, for a nice explanation of this verse, which is also talking about Atma as a Karta. And as you nicely brought out the Shankara Bhashyam in this. Now, when a same idea is repeated after one verse, now is this a dosha? Is this a defect? Now, Adi Shankara tries to justify, and he says, as already explained by you, there is a teaching methodology where first you enunciate a hypothesis that Atma is a Karta. And in the next verse that was explained to us by Dr. Srinivas, we'll see because Atma is all pervading and does not undergo any change, therefore the 21st verse becomes a conclusion. So you have raised a proposition, you have given a reasoning, and then you conclude. And these are nicely brought out in the Bhashyam by Adi Shankara. I will go back to the earlier verse that was explained by Dr. Sundar, where Dr. Sundar explained to us about the aprameya. And in the Shankar Bhashya, there is always, he brings in a purva pakshi, an objection, and very relevant objection. The objection brought out by the purva pakshi is, if Atma is aprameya, that means Atma can never be known through any instrument of knowledge, then what is the role of Guru and Shastra? As I already said, Dr. Sundar has answered this question. So the question again, I want you to realize, and I will answer it at the end of today's class. If Atma is aprameya, that means it cannot be known through any means of knowledge. What are we doing in all these classes? What are we using the Upanishads and the Gita? Please give me the answer. We will go to the next verse, and that will be by Dr. Ashwini, and we will come back to this later. Dr. Ashwini, please.
Thank you, sir. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinhati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. In this verse, Lord Krishna talks about Punarjanma and Maranam. More specifically, what happens to the Atma at the time of death and rebirth. In the next slide, he gives an example of changing clothes. Clothes are superficial covering on ourselves. We buy and use new clothes periodically and get rid of the older ones. Although we change them often, the changes are only at the level of dress, but not at the physical body. Similarly, every time a living being is born, Jiva comes freshly dressed with a new body. Jivas take the physical body, live there for some time, and thereafter discard the body depending on their prarabdha. Here, Jiva refers to subtle body with consciousness. Next slide, sir. Jirnani vasansi vihaya. We give up clothes that are worn out And for the sake of transaction, navani aparani grinhati, we wear fresh or other clothes. Tatha, same way, Jirnani sharirani vihaya, similar to old worn out clothes, bodies are also discarded by jiva or dehi and anyani samyati, come out again for the transaction by putting on another body based on their karma phalas. Next slide, sir. Now, let's look at what happens at the time of the death. Swami Paramarthananda ji has explained this beautifully using Tattva Bodha angle. We know that we have three layers in our body, Shariratrayam. They are Stula Shariram, gross body, Sukshma Shariram, subtle body, Karana Shariram, causal body, and the Atma, which enlivens these three bodies. Next slide, sir. At the time of death, Stula Shariram alone perishes, Sukshma and Karana Shariram leaves the body, whereas Atma does not undergo any change, it continues to exist. Now, what happens to the Sukshma Shariram that leaves the body? Based on the Karma Phalas, Sukshma Shariram finds another physical body in order to fructify accumulated karmas. If the punyas are more, rebirth will be at higher lokas. If the papas are more, rebirth will be at lower lokas. If it's an equal mixture, then it will be at Manushya Loka. Now, what happens to the Atma? Atma is all pervading, like everyone has told. Now, it does not get affected by karmas, and therefore there is no birth or death. It is exactly like pulling down a house and building a multi-story. The space inside continues to be same and unaffected. It's only because of the space alone building finds its existence. Likewise, Atma alone gives sentience to the subtle body, which goes through the cycle of birth and death. To summarize this verse, just as a person gives up worn out clothes and puts on other new ones, this jiva also gives up worn out bodies and attain into the other new ones. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwini, for giving us a nice explanation of this verse. And this verse is also useful for us to understand, and as you nicely explained, what exactly happens at the time of death. We will use various examples, but remember, all examples have their own limitations. In Vedanta, we do not like to use the word soul that survives after the death of the body, because we know that in addition to the gross body, you have the subtle body, you have the causal body, you have the reflected consciousness, you have the Atma. Now, all other than the gross body, all the other four will survive. And therefore, let us not use the word soul, but let us use the word the subtle body. So the subtle body can be comparable to a SIM card, which contains all our data of all the past karmas. And so when the subtle body leaves the gross body, that is the definition of death. And this subtle body can be put into another telephone which enlivens the phone. And what is the Atma is that which is all pervading, can be considered as the cellular network or the mobile network, which is all pervading. If I can give another example, the sun can be taken as consciousness, a bucket can be taken as our body, and the water in the bucket can be taken as the Sukshma Sharira. The Sukshma Sharira's ability is the ability to reflect consciousness. You will be able to see the reflected sun. And this is one example that we can understand. Although there may be hundreds of buckets and hundreds of reflections, all the original consciousness is only one. Now, just like the mind can be very clear, and if the mind is very clear, the surface of the water is clear, the reflection of the original consciousness, the sun, can be very clear. But if the mind is turbulent, and when the agitated mind, the reflection also looks agitated. If the mind is muddy because of various impurity, the reflection of the sun again does not become clear. Now, just as the subtle body leaves the gross body because of various diseases, the bucket can lose the water content. Now, when the water is lost, the bucket now is not able to reflect the sun. And therefore, even though the sun of consciousness still continues to be, Atma is still there in the dead body. So it was initially difficult for me to believe that the Atma is there, because a lot of people talk about Atma ko Shanti Karna. See, Atma is always there, and Atma does not require any Shanti. Whatever we are talking about is of the subtle body that moves. And in the same example, if the water can be transferred to another bottle, into another bucket, now that becomes a reflection. So therefore, the sun can be taken as the original consciousness, the mind can be taken as the reflecting media, and the body in this example can be taken as the bucket, to be able to understand what is that which survives. It is the subtle body, the causal body, and the reflected consciousness and the original consciousness, all that survive after death. We come to the end of today's class. Next class, we will have 6 more verses like Nainam Chindanti Shastrani up to verse 28, Avyakta Dini Bhutani. A good student will come prepared for all these verses, just 6 verses for the next class, so that if you are prepared with these verses, when our students, now teachers, explain them, your understanding is going to become deeper. I will now come to the question that the Purva Pakshi asked. Now, if Atma is aprameya, if the Atma is not accessible to any instrument of knowledge, what are we doing through Guru and Shastra? This has been answered by Dr. Sundar. If you can go back to his talk. There is one thing in this whole world that we do not need any instrument of knowledge. To know I am, I don't have to look around, I don't have to feel, I don't have to see. If to know if someone else is there in the class, I have to look around and see. But to see I am, I do not need any instrument of knowledge. But then what is the problem? Now the problem is, upon this I am, for various reasons, I have superimposed limitations of the body and mind. And for some reason, the reason here being Maya, I have identified myself as this limited body, limited mind. And you will see in all our Nidityasanam shlokas, Mano Buddhi Ankara Chittani Naham. The Guru and the Shastra's whole objective is to change our identification from the limited. And once this limited idea is removed, the original shines on its own. You will remember every morning we meditate on these words. Pratar bhajami manasa vachasa agamyam. Early in the morning, I meditate on that Atma Tattva, which is inaccessible to the sense organs represented by the mind, and vachasa, spoken or written words, that is including the scriptures. However, because of that, I'm able to think, because of that, I'm able to speak. And through this process of negation, through neti, that is what the Guru and the Shastras help us to be able to identify our real self. We will conclude by the chanting of the verses of today's class by Panaga. Over to you, Panaga.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Avinashi tu tadvidhi, yena sarvamidam tatam, vinasham avyayasyasya, na kaschit kartumarhati. Antavanta ime deha, nityasyokta sharirinaha, anashino prameyasya, tasmadyudhyasva bharata. Ya enam veti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhau tau na vijanitaha, nayam hanti na hanyate. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha. अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं य एनमजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घातयति हन्तिकम् वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Panaga. That was melodious. Thank you, sir, and all the speakers for making the verses much more simpler to understand. These are the most unusual times for our generation. We must remind ourselves, this too shall pass. Understanding the teachings of Bhagavad Gita will help us deal with the real-time situations with a much better attitude. Let the knowledge sink in slowly but surely. Looking forward to the next few verses. Please log in on Monday, the 10th of May for our penultimate class on Viveka Chudamani Select 108 verses at 6:45 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Also note, from the 24th of May, we will be having 2 classes per week on Bhagavad Gita every Mondays and Fridays, same time, 6:45 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And now to conclude, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.